this week's episode of Assassination Classroom, the students of Class 3E only have 4 months to kill Koro-sensei. Otherwise, the Earth is going to be destroyed. So safe to say, they really have to start thinking about their futures, which just so happens to be the premise of this week's episode. All of the various students of Class 3E are trying to determine what high school they're going to go to and what their future careers are going to be. And this week's episode focused on the main default character, Nagisa Shiota, who truly is an incredibly tragic character. Despite the fact that he does have some assassination skills, he comes from one crazy broken family. There have been hints to this in some of the previous episodes where he was hanging out with his father alone in a ramen shop. His father seems like a really nice guy. His mother, on the other hand, is a complete and total psycho bitch. I am not even joking. Next to, like, Shiro and the Reaper, Nagisa's mother is the baddest, most evil character that I have seen from Ass Class. She is absolutely horrifying, commanding, incredibly strict. Not to mention, she has a number of messed up complexes. Not only that, but she seems to live vicariously through her son Nagisa. Not to mention, she didn't even want a son, period. She makes it painfully clear in this episode that she always wanted a daughter, and this is why Nagisa cannot cut his hair, and this finally explains why he has the hairstyle that he does. He would love to cut his hair, but he would dare not cross his mother, who, frankly, has just one of the most darkest presents that I've seen from just about any anime series. The fact that she could go from sort of normal and kind and nice to immediately being dark and evil like just a flip of a switch is, frankly, kind of disturbing, especially the way when she immediately gets pissed off at Nagisa at the beginning of the episode, literally grabbing his head and constantly slamming it into this table, when you finally get to see what his true hair looks like, and it is long as shit. The dude is a frickin' rocker. Why doesn't he join a rock band? It would be absolutely perfect. And of course the fact that his mother really messes with him by literally putting dresses on him and stuff. It's pretty damned weird, to say the least. There are a lot of scenes like that which were just strange. Everybody's always poking fun at the fact that Nagisa definitely looks like a female character, especially the character of Karma Akabane this week, who suggested that after they get out of school, they should go to Morocco or Thailand so that he could get, well, his doodle cut off. Another thing about this episode that was really strange, something that I'm surprised they focused on so much, was the fact that Professor Bitch Irina Yelovich has actually decided to dress a little more conservatively. She doesn't show as much skin, she's wearing a sweater, yet she still has a shapely form and it leaves a lot to be desired, to a point where most of the male students continuously have bloody noses by imagining what she actually would look like. In many ways, it's just as distracting, and oddly enough, it's also reflected in the brand new intro in this week's episode, which really isn't completely brand new. It's still a lot of the same imagery and the same song, but Professor Bitch looks different. There's even the Reaper, who is now turned around and you get to see his creepy skull face, just letting us know that, yeah, this bad guy is going to return. But little by little, all the different students go and they talk with Koro-sensei, trying to figure out things that are going on in their future. Characters like Nakamura, and then eventually it ends with Nagisa suggesting to Koro-sensei that maybe he should be an assassin. He's got the skills to pay the bills. However, Koro-sensei tells him to sleep on it, really think about what you want to do, because the life of an assassin is pretty freaking messed up when you think about it. However, when he goes to discuss this with his mother, she just completely flips out and decides that she wants to talk to his teacher because she wants to take him from E-class to D-class. She actually has an opportunity to transfer him. And of course, Nagisa doesn't want any of this to happen because his grades are getting better, he's getting a great education, he's finally starting to make some friends, and of course, he's grown quite attached to Koro-sensei. So his mother and him decide to go and speak with Koro-sensei, and he dresses up just like Karasuma, which is one of the worst costumes that he's ever had in the entire series, which is a great reveal. Not only just because he barely looks like Karasuma at all because of his weird body shape, but just the fact that he actually decides to remove the wig in the middle of the meeting with Nagisa's mother, which is great, which completely shocks her. Just the styling of him jumping up and ripping the wig and the hair's going all over the place. One of the funniest scenes from the entire series, and he's also trying to illustrate a point that he doesn't want Nagisa to leave the classroom, that this is going to be the best thing for him, and he can actually see the influence of his personality from his mother, and he thinks that's actually a bad thing. Of course, she does not agree with any of this, and completely flips out on him, to a point where later in the episode, she makes the decision to bring Nagisa to the school at night so that they can burn it down. That's right. She decides that this is such a bad situation that she's going to light a torch, hand it to her son, and make him burn the school down. She guilt trips him in some of the most underhanded ways possible, basically saying like, I made you, I can unmake you, I go out of my way to take care of you and make dinner after I get home from work, I bust my ass to get you into best classes possible, you need to do what I say. And Nagisa is kind of in a bind here, when suddenly, out of nowhere, this one assassin just shows up with a whip, who claims that he's going to come by the school at night because he's waiting for Koro-sensei to appear, because he noticed he always appears. There's always random assassins who just decide to pop up in the series and try to take out Koro-sensei, and of course Nagisa's mother is a little freaked out at first, but Nagisa decides to use his assassination abilities to actually take this guy out. And I think he actually used that one clapping move, the one that was originally introduced by Lovero, and then the one that was perfected, of course, by the Reaper. It looks like he learned a lot from actually watching him, especially because he dealt with that technique firsthand, and he was able to take this guy out pretty quick. And then, of course, you have Koro-sensei, who finally decided to return, and then suddenly his mom gets knocked out, and they take her back home to her house, and that's when Nagisa makes the final decision that he doesn't want to be an assassin, but he does want to do something with his abilities to help his friends, to save people, kind of similar to how he saved his mother. So he decided to beg his mother to stay in Class 3E. If he does that, everything is going to be just fine. He's deciding he's going to help out with a family life, he's going to be cooking breakfast, taking out the garbage, and she reluctantly decides to agree. Nagisa is going back to Class 3E to learn some more assassination skills. So, what's the rundown on this week's episode of Assassination Classroom? This is an episode that had some amazing imagery in it, and pretty much all of it was provided by Nagisa's mother, who is just an absolutely horrifying being. She just looks kind of like your standard, you know, very cute anime mother, but then she just suddenly transforms into this horrifying beast. It's mostly in the eyes and everything, but there's a lot of imagery later on in the episode when they're about to burn down the school, where Nagisa actually pictures his mom as this giant fiery monster with these chains which are constantly wrapping around his body. It's some really intense imagery and really lets you know that, you know, not everything is just completely black and white when it comes to Nagisa. He actually has a surprisingly complex backstory. That, with everything and his mother basically trying to live vicariously through him, I think is something that a lot of people have to deal with their parents. It's something that basically they're trying to take the failures they had in life and they don't want to implant them in their kids, so they try to put them on the same track that they were, just a much more successful one. They're living through their kids. It's honestly kind of messed up, but still, this was the type of episode that I've honestly been waiting for Nagisa. We needed more development from this character, we needed to learn a little bit more about him and where he's going to be going in the series, because there really isn't a main character in Assassination Classroom, I guess, aside from Koro-sensei, but I would say that Nagisa is probably the closest one to that, and they really got to showcase his character a lot this week, and what I will say is this episode was a great mixture of laughs, action, intensity, just a lot of great emotions from this episode. The animation and the artwork also looked really good. I liked the dress change for Professor Bitch. I honestly do kind of agree with the male students. It actually does somehow make her more sexy. She looks good in a sweater. It's weird. And Nagisa himself also demonstrated that his abilities have come a long way, not just by taking out that assassin, but the fact that he actually removed this tag from the back of Professor Bitch's shirt, and she didn't even notice at all. Almost no one noticed, only the people who were directly watching Nagisa as he was walking past her. Again, Nagisa probably is going to be one of the biggest threats for Class 3E. I can't wait to see how he's going to grow as the series goes on. What I will say is, this was a really intense episode, and it was a really appreciated episode, so I can't wait to see where they're going to go from here. So, check out this week's episode of Assassination Classroom. I really loved it. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. Check it out, Ask Class fans. You might see something you like. But if any of you guys watch this week's episode of Assassination Classroom, make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching this review. Make sure to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.